I'm perceived as the guy who started a whole bunch of stuff, which isn't really true. I was one of several people that were trying to make low-budget films in the early '80s, and was fortunate enough to be a little successful. It would be accurate to say that Friday comes into my life, if not on a daily basis, certainly on a weekly basis. There's a lot of fan mail and conventions, and people would like me to come and talk and so on. And I don't do a lot of that, mostly because I'm interested in what's in the future, not revisiting the stuff that's in the past. But I don't deny any of my connections to Friday the 13th, but I'm not fascinated by them. You could call this this place the house that Jason built. I think that he certainly would not have happened had I not done the Friday the 13th adventure, and I'm very grateful for that. And I don't have any problems with the fact that other people have gotten involved and gone in different directions. I'm very blessed to have what I have, and I'm grateful. When we got this house, I established an office and a cutting room in the garage, and that became, you know, the joke was that became world headquarters, and it's my gosh, it's a beautiful place, and I get to you know, I get to play tennis or do whatever I want, and I can play with my kids, and nevertheless still be working if I need to be working. So I don't have much memorabilia around, except one of the things I really like is this thing that Adrienne King gave me after she was doing something for Variety Children's Hospital, and this little poster that she put together with some pictures of herself and some notes that I had taken from the shot list the night that we shot this scene. These are those notes, and she tells me that I gave them to her that night, and they showed up 20 years later on this poster. But I think it's really neat. I really like it. Looking back at the first film, I think that the stuff that stands out to me is that it is such a de minimis kind of movie making. We had very little money, very little time, and we had to just focus on our goal, which was to create this sort of scary campfire tale without having ambitions to make it a character study or to make it, you know, more than what it was. And in that sort of like single-minded purpose, I think it still survives. And I think that another reason maybe that it seems scary is in the absence of slick special effects, we were relying on the situational aspects and the story aspects of it, you know, to hold the interest of the audience. And I think that's where we succeeded in ways we didn't expect. In new movies today, special effects are no longer a magic show. Special effects are a way of just telling your story. When we were trying to do Friday the 13th, the original one with Tom Savini and Steve Miner, we were trying to figure out how to do this little magic show that people say, my gosh, how did you do that? It looked like you just chopped her head off or whatever. And so that there was a kind of a fun in that. Today, you can do anything you can imagine can be presented on screen, and nobody asks, how did you do that magic trick? They just assume it's some sort of camera, CGI, special effects wizardry, but they don't think that somehow or other you did something live that was breathtaking. Friday the 13th, making that movie way back when, a lot of it has gotten sort of fuzzy over time. But I do remember it was kind of a forced march, and it was very, very cold often at night. I mean, not cold as in snowing, but cold and wet. And the people around me were working so hard, and the kind of bonding and camaraderie that happens when people are thrown in a very difficult situation, similar to making a movie at night in the rain or climbing a mountain or whitewater rafting or skiing or, you know, certain things when you all share this very difficult experience, produces a camaraderie, a sense of bonding that, and an extended family, which is really kind of neat. You know, my, my son is still working with me today. He's grown into the franchise, as it were.
Well, you know, we've been working together for so long now, you know, on and off for 20 years. It's, you know, we kind of develop a shorthand, so it's really easy to work together, and, you know, we don't fight or anything like that. For a long time, my mother actually cut a couple of his films, and she went off to do her own, you know, had a career as an editor from that. But yeah, it's, you know, you can disappear for an entire year. And if you don't have your family close, you don't see them for a whole year. And it's tough. That's why so many relationships don't last.
As we sit here today, the notion of franchise horror films is very well known and taken for granted, but it didn't exist when I did Friday the 13th. Nobody was ever thinking about, you know, what will the next one be? I mean, it would be a big enough job just to create the first one, but no one could imagine that there would be a need for yet another Friday the 13th. And so that when it got this, you know, remarkable success, when it was released, Paramount said, gee, we would like to do another one. And I had to ask myself, what does that mean? Friday the 13th is as a brand name. What does that mean? And I was thinking, well, it's probably a scary situation in the woods, something or other. And I didn't think that it would make any sense at all to bring Jason back. I mean, Jason was a figment of the girl's imagination, we think. And what, did he live under the lake? I mean, that's crazy. And if you brought him back, how old is he? And it just seemed to me like, how in the world would you do that? And why would you do that? Wouldn't it be scary if we did it some other way? I'm delighted to say that I was completely wrong about not bringing Jason back. I'm not sure I know why Friday the 13th stays alive, you know, year after year after year. I think it evolved into something very different from where we started, which was sort of a reality-based thriller with a little twist at the end. But after Jason got his hockey mask and became established, it became sort of a dependable, sort of blue-collar horror film. If you're going to go see Friday the 13th, you knew what you were going to get. And I think that somehow or other in that dependability is the reason why it you know, persisted. It was a brand. And I think that in the same way that you know what to expect when you go to see a, I don't know, Godzilla movie or a James Bond movie, Friday the 13th became that dependable. And I think that's the reason it survived.